Just admiring how nice and blue my hair is on that slide, actually. It's probably about time I dealt with my considerable roots at some point. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November Power Platform Virtual Happy Hour. And tonight's mass debate involves the wonderful Megan V. Walker, or Emoji Megs, to give her opinions on some of the stuff that's going on with Dynamics and Power Platform, and also Jukka Niiner, I can't, he'll tell you how to pronounce it, I'm sure, who is also giving us his opinions on the state of the nation. A massive welcome to you guys. Before we start, I would just like to run through a quick code of conduct, which for those of you who've been here before, I'm sure you're fairly familiar with. We do try and operate a safe and welcoming space for everybody. We would ask you to be aware of others and be welcoming, respectful, friendly and patient. To understand that not everybody has the same opinion of you, and that's okay, and to be open to all viewpoints, all questions, and to be kind and considerate if you hear or see anything that you think is unbecoming of community of a community event, then please let myself or Carl know, or Chris. It's probably me that's being unbecoming, so just tell Chris and he can punch me later. It'll be fine. And it's already breaking it there, look. And I would like to kick off by asking our esteemed guests to, please keep yourself muted, raise your hand if you have a question. We do love to get questions from you guys, so don't be afraid. There are no stupid questions, only the one you don't ask. And without further ado, I will move on, and I would ask our wonderful esteemed guests to give us a quick intro about themselves, and maybe one fun fact if you feel up to it. So Megan, would you like to go first?
Oh God, I hate when someone wants a fun fact.
Don't do a fun fact then. Just tell us just give us your name and what's your name and where'd you come from.
No, I'm just trying to think of a fun fact.
I can think of a million fun facts about you.
Can you? Okay, great. Maybe you give the fun fact about me. So my name is Megan V. Walker. The V is only important if you're looking for me online, because there's a lovely basketball player called Megan Walker who's taken my original domain that I wanted. So it's Megan V. Walker.
Outrageous.
What else did you want to know?
Maybe what you specialize in or what your area
is. Yeah, so I guess to me areas of interest change a lot, and it's really about either what I'm currently working on a project, or what I want to know. If there's something that's come out that I'm like, okay, I want to teach myself, and then once I've taught myself, then I can kind of share that with other people in a way that hopefully is easy to understand, easy to follow. So yeah, I tend to just selfishly go where my interests are as much as I can, but primarily I absolutely love marketing. Used to run a marketing department, so anything around the Dynamics 365 marketing app, anything around analytics, reporting, website stuff, social media, all of that stuff, absolutely love it.
And I would thank you very much for that. And I would say a fun fact about you is that you're doing like 100-kilometer.
Yes, I don't know if that's fun. I'll let you know.
Well, it's fun for us because we're not doing it. But,
so yes, I am. So my dad unfortunately was diagnosed with Alzheimer's last year, and as a family, bless him, my dad did this. We did 25 kilometers this summer, and my brother and I stupidly was like, yeah, let's do it again, but let's do 100 kilometers, and let's do it without a break, non-stop. So it's 100 kilometers walking, hopefully in less than 24 hours, but we shall see.
Good luck. Enjoy the blisters.
Walking, by the way, walking, not running, walking.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think you'd want to run it. Blimey. But, well, maybe you would. I don't know. But
it would be over faster, but I'd probably be in a hospital. So
I'll pop onto your Twitter later and sponsor you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love you.
And Jukka, please tell us how to pronounce your surname correctly, or your whole name correctly, your areas of specialization, and a fun fact.
All right, thank you very much. Happy to be here for the hour. It's been too long since we have had this kind of actual meetings. So yeah, my name, Jukka Tapio Niiranen is the full name. So if you ever want to pronounce that, then that's how all the Finnish surnames end with NEN. So easy to then cover all the other variations in our small country then as well. What do? I've been doing, well, I used to do CRM for almost close to 20 years. And then a couple of years ago, I decided that, okay, I'll do away with the acronym CRM in my blog name. So surviving CRM was something I had been writing for over a decade. And then I decided, okay, I need to reinvent myself. And the domain for my name was free, luckily, so there are no other Jukka Niiranen out there. So .com is now the place where I keep on blogging about business applications and Power Platform in general. Yeah, I've been for the past couple of years trying to focus now on kind of understanding the low-code story and what the Power Platform revolution really is about. And it's I've kind of always been a low-coder myself because I don't have any programming skills. I can only do Control-C, Control-V if I need to do code. So but I've been able to get pretty far with those skills. And well, surprisingly, the kind of platform has then also evolved into a direction where that kind of skills are now fairly much in need and in fashion, you could even say. So yeah, I guess that's my kind of current area of focus is really understanding the kind of how the system developer story evolves in the organization where I used to be setting and deploying enterprise CRM systems for them for 10 years, and now same technology, but a completely different approach and different use cases. So that's where I probably spend most of my times in blogging and talking with customers and all that. Fun fact. I'm not a very fun guy, but if you think about what I did before CRM, so before I went to business studies, so I was for a brief moment a truck driver, so I could actually pursue that as a profession then and be a lorry driver. That's also a profession that's in high demand in UK from what I've heard. So it would have been a good choice as well for a career, I guess. But yeah,
nice.
Didn't go that way.
It didn't go that way. It went very different direction. Two very disparate directions.
Slightly different turn.
So, like, why do all the Finnish surnames end in en?
I don't really know. That's a good question. We take it for granted.
That's a fun fact for next time when you find out.
I'm going to Google it. Yeah, because I was like just thinking, who do I know? Mika Hakkinen, Kimi Räikkönen, like, yeah.
You could invite Antti Pajunen from our team actually as a guest next time.
Yeah.
He could dig it up with information.
He should know. We'll ask him. Yeah, interesting. So, do you guys have anything in particular that you would like, anything that's happened recently in the whole Power Platform sphere that you're particularly excited about, maybe in your respective areas? I mean, I know, Megan, we had a brief chat about real-time marketing, but Jukka, is there anything particularly exciting for you that's happening right now?
Of course, people mentioned in the chat already, so licensing is a gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, the pay-as-you-go announcements last week have been something that, I mean, everybody has been waiting for such a long time, and yeah, it's kind of gives you lots and lots of interesting scenarios now to also then talk with the customers. So if I think about what I've been in lots of these kind of governance model developments with our customers, trying to get them up to speed with our platform, and then there's a few set of workshops I do, and then always the last and the most interesting part, the eagerly awaited, is the licensing workshop. So lots of new materials there to then be updated for that area. But I say that is I'm not sure if it makes the platform itself so much now cheaper or more viable, but it makes it more approachable to so many people, especially on the IT side, who know Azure. So that is a huge milestone, even though it might not actually be cutting down the bill for many customers, but it's gonna, I mean, allow people to I have the courage to embrace the platform when they actually have some touch point in how licensing works, because previously it was like a totally different world for them, and yeah, it hasn't been getting easier. It's an area that's probably still the biggest mental blocker for many customers to like jump all in onto the platform. So that is a huge thing. It has to be the biggest thing, probably during the past 3 months at least, in the platform.
Yeah. So like, what do you think is going to be the most likely effect? Because I think the expectation is that it's just going to explode the growth of people like adopting Power Apps and adopting Power Platform. And do you think it's going to have a massive effect? Because I tell you why I asked that question, because very often I get caught by somebody saying, oh, like this makes so and so much easier or so much more accessible. And so I think, oh, great, loads more people are going to adopt it. But then actually, when you look into it, it doesn't really, it's just a different way of slicing an onion, right? So like, is it actually going to have an effect, do you think? Is it actually going to make a difference?
I think it serves a purpose for especially the kind of pro dev and IT crowd to like have a way to start experimenting with the platform without the huge barrier for negotiating a enterprise agreement and getting the license from the other side, because they used to have their Azure credits and they have their discounts there, and like it's spending on Azure is not a problem. Spending on Power Platform has been a huge problem, not because of the price, but because of the complexity of the process and the bureaucracy around it. So I do think that's going to be the biggest impact from it, and we'll see people from that side now be more open to the kind of discussion or the suggestion that maybe we should build this as a Power App rather than doing as Azure custom development stuff. So yeah, that's the where I do foresee that eventually, once they are in, maybe some of the barriers there for anyone to start playing with their Azure credits and spinning up environments, then it will smoothen the path for that crowd, definitely.
Cool. Chris, Megan, who wants to chime in?
I was going to say, until they start changing how the licensing or the cost is for the marketing app, that for me, I think everyone should be using the marketing app, but the bloody cost of it is just awful. And so I think we're looking and we're focusing on stuff, but then we want people to adopt all areas of it, and they're investing so much at the minute in the marketing app, in the real-time marketing. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later, but they're investing so much in the development and the new functionality and the features, but then there's so many customers that I know would love to use it, but the cost is just crazy. I think, isn't it something like £1,200 a month or something like that?
I think it's near 1,500. It's definitely around that area.
I don't know if it's in
like
dollars,
around
but yeah.
1,500. But like, and the thing is, then they were doing a thing where you can get a license for 6 months free, so you can try before you buy, right? But you've got to have like 1,000 seats or something.
But also, you as a marketing department, as somebody that is doing marketing, you are not going to just say, well, let's just try it for 6 months. You don't shift your entire platform and what you're using as your, for your marketing approach. It's a huge undertaking to switch from one system, even if you're just going from like a MailChimp to a ConvertKit, or a ConvertKit to, Benchmark, or whatever it is that you're thinking about using. It's a massive undertaking to just move. So to say we'll try it for 6 months, you have to just be like, we know we're going to use it, we'll just take advantage, get 6 months free, and then we'll roll into the paying after that point.
Otherwise, it's as bonkers as suggesting like, oh, if you're on Oracle currently, I'll just try D365 F&O for 6 months to see if you like it. I mean, it just doesn't work.
Dabble in it and put your toe in. No, we're not going to.
Have a crack and see how you get on. Yeah. Chris, what did you want to say?
I think Cookie was first, actually.
Oh. Well, I was just going to go back to what Jukka was saying, because from what he was saying, the change in the licensing feels like a more of an enterprise play, where I thought that it was designed to be to start those small to medium enterprises off and allow them to wet their feet. Is that how you see it, or is it what they've done there? It feels like they've, like you're saying, allowing the Azure subscription, but pay as you go in essence in its normal nature is for people that just want to dip their toe in without the cost.
Yeah, I definitely do see that. I mean, well, just today I was playing about this scenario for another small company, mid-size, probably even by the kind of European standards, and for their kind of these IT self-service forms replacement, and doing that on Power Apps, and of course trying to do it with Dataverse, and even with that model now for the fact that opening the app costs $10, then it's still not a good story for kind of the long-term usage of that kind of systems where it would be very light use. So I still see that as a challenge, and in a scenario like that, actually I ended up suggesting that we do it on Dataverse for Teams, which is going to be a better fit for them pricing wise, and we can then kind of also integrate with the necessary APIs that they want to then connect to with their other identity systems and kind of other existing investments. So yeah, I don't think that it's probably, it might be indication that the price is not going to be dropping that much more, because we saw the 50% drop in the per app and per user pricing, and now when you think about then the kind of discounts that the bigger companies will get on top of that, then the slice is going to be thin for the kind of negotiations on the enterprise level, and I'm thinking that they probably cannot make it then much lower without then kind of being on the losing edge of that those negotiations on the bigger customers. So it's a bit of a tough situation that it's still not that ubiquitous, so you can always rely on it being sensible. It's not going to be always the kind of the first thing to do until there are enough use cases to actually cover for the per user scenarios that make it viable on that level. So yeah, I do agree that it's not more about the enterprise.
Fair. Chris Nicorn?
Yeah, I've got a theory, actually, Jukka and Megan, I guess. So what I've been thinking around this license, okay, I think it's cool. I think it's a good step in the right direction. Mathematically, it doesn't work out. Like, it just doesn't. Okay, but that's cool, because now we have another SKU to negotiate on. So before, like when we used to negotiate with Microsoft on like per app licensing, which we wouldn't, or per user licensing, you're negotiating on two things: consumption and connectivity every time, right? Connectivity is something that you can probably drop the price on, like $20 per user or $3 per user. But on consumption, you're typically not going to do that, right? But now the way that I see it is that when I would negotiate with Microsoft and have this discussion, I never had a consumption-based license model to negotiate on. It was always per app. And I would never negotiate a per app license in my brain, because I've never found the right fit for it. Well, maybe there's one or two. But now we have a consumption-based model that we can talk about and we can negotiate on as a baseline. So my theory is, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think that this is kind of saying, hey, we've just got another route to get a better pricing, or do you think that they would never go lower on that $10?
Well, one thing there maybe is that it's is it really then full consumption, because there's the capacity that you pay for as you consume it, but then the actual, it's just a way of like assigning per app passes for a month and then taking them away. So it's not really officially consumption as such. So I'm thinking that probably eventually maybe they will launch a pure consumption licensing also for the end users, but then maybe it's going to be at the time when they are pushing for the ISVs to build on top of this platform. So now they are selling to the enterprises and SMBs and getting the people adapted for the internal use, but people don't build commercial products on top of our platform yet. It's not the focus there yet, but maybe in 2 years' time, that's going to be the next goal, the kind of next KPI for Microsoft, and then we'll see the evolution of like having also it purely consumption based, the whole thing.
Yeah. I think it's got to go that route eventually, but I get that people have to pay bills and keep lights on, so it makes sense. I just think that now it's going in the right direction. We're getting better. It's getting better, and we have more options now, instead of, hey, you have to buy a per user license every time.
There's more hope.
Yes, bro. It's like a great Star Wars film.
And like, so with the pay-go, like it felt to me like that makes Power Platform or like Power Apps maybe a bit more accessible to smaller users. who might, because it's an inexpensive license, and they only actually pay, if I understand it correctly, they only pay for it if somebody actually uses the app. Is that correct?
Yeah, during
That's
the
what I
month.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like,
but the thing that worries me though, again, can I tell you why I was slightly worried when I spoke to the product group about this? Because Karen from accounts, right? Karen has no cooking clue. She stumbles onto an app, and one of these app launches, clicks an app that looks cool, $10. Oh shit, that's not the app I want. Closes it, clicks another app, whack, that's $10. And before you know it, you've racked up a random bill of, like, for one user, of $100. And I get that you can put capacity and monitoring on it. Sure, awesome. It's like I said, I'm not complaining, but it's terrifying because it's not like the app pass where that's that, right? The app and the app pass welded together, that's you. And the all-you-can-eat buffet of the user pass. But it's just the fact that even somebody wouldn't know, like a user would just not know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
good point.
You see them all in, and it's cool. Like, you see them all get embedded in SharePoint lists and in Teams, and apps are very accessible to people, which is great, but it's also scary.
Why is nobody talking about SharePoint lists, or lists as it's now called? Because, like,
I think there's many people that are talking about them. They're just on a completely different happy hour session. They're not on ours.
They're not on
So I think there's loads of people talking about SharePoint lists.
I'm in the wrong
just not
session.
in this group. Yeah, just
Yeah.
not in this group.
It was a new discovery to me, because obviously I don't hang around with people that talk about it. So, like,
You should make friends with them.
a revelation to me when I found lists.
I think it's like, there's so many things that are out there that you stumble across, and then you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I see people sharing things on Twitter or posting things on Twitter, like, oh, should I start writing about, I saw a tweet about, should I write something about model driven apps? Do you think that is there any interest in it? And I thought, well, yes, there's been interest in model driven apps for a very, very, very long time, and there's a lot of people writing about it. So I think that's the thing, is we're each sort of go down our path and are in a lane, whether it's a self-imposed lane, whether it's because that's just what we do and we're not necessarily focused on other areas. And then we see other things and we sort of delve into them, maybe, and then you find this whole other world or this other bubble that you kind of then merge into, and then your world just gets a little bit bigger, and then you find something else out. So I think that's, to me, one of the beauties about the entire Microsoft stack of everything that they've got to offer, is that there's just so much out there, and we can either just be sort of blinkered and be like, I'm in the Power Platform world, or we step out and say, well, this is sort of on the side of that. What could it do? What could it do for me? What could it do for others? So yeah, I just think we're all each in our bubbles, and ideally we spread that out and we jump into other bubbles, so to speak.
But it's like, that's the voyage of discovery I like going on, is like just wandering into like strange areas and going, oh, I haven't seen this before. This is new.
It's like
Is that why you live in Brighton?
That's why I live in Brighton.
There's so much I could do with that.
Well, don't. There's the code of conduct. So.
Yeah, but I mean, we were talking about Microsoft bookings the other day, and that's one of those things, right, where it's got nothing to do with the Power Platform, but I came across it and I was like, oh my god, well, what is this? And then started delving into it, right?
It's tremendous.
It's not a bad little product, and it's free. Well, obviously you're paying for you're paying for some kind of license, but
yeah. Nothing's free, Migs.
No, I know it's not. That's why I corrected myself, Christopher.
No, but you can get it with a basic like M365 license, which is 10 quid or something, and you get all of the Microsoft stuff. So, like, it is kind of thrown in into the mix. The downside, can't do recurring appointments on it.
There's a lot of things you can't do. You used to be able to have someone pay for something via that. They took that away. But what I enjoyed doing was delving into it and then looking at using Power Automate and what can I do with Power Automate without having to get technical and without having to use Microsoft Graph and gather, without having to use Microsoft Graph.
As per our conversation, and I fully admitted that I was a dolt because I saw a post. What happened was Meg and I were talking about this, and I saw a post. I was trying to do something with bookings and Power Automate, and I saw a post by Meg, and I was like, that looks really interesting. And it was about using Power Automate to do like a summary of what you had in bookings. And because I'm an idiot, I looked at that and go, that's not what I'm trying to do then. So then I didn't actually look at the post, which I should have done, because actually it still would have taught me how to connect it to Power Automate and do what I wanted to do. But yeah, like, so I was suitably chastised for that.
It's okay. It's okay. You can reread it.
I will go back to it at the weekend. Yeah. But the other thing that we spoke about was real-time marketing and the customer journey orchestration stuff. Like, what are your
So yeah, so first of all, I would like to, if people don't know Vivian, who was on here, I want to point Vivian out, because she started doing a series about marketing that I've actually made a flow just so I can know when she has a new post and get it from our RSS feed. So so Vivian's writing about marketing. She's got some awesome posts that have come out. So real-time marketing. So let's backtrack a little bit in terms of Dynamics 365 marketing, because to me, I saw a comment somewhere where someone was asking about click dimensions and what's the pros and the cons between click dimensions and marketing. For a long time, I think anyone that has had a conversation with a customer about marketing in general, it was, oh, use click dimensions for quite a long time, right? That was the forefront or the forerunner, whatever. What's the phrase?
Yeah.
Forerunner. Front runner.
Yeah, front runner.
Front runner, forerunner.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that I would suggest. And then it started getting to the point where it's like, ooh, actually, there's pros and cons for each. And here they are, and make your own decision based on here's the information, whether it's based on the cost, whether it's based on being able to market to leads or contacts or both or whatever. Now, I wouldn't suggest anyone uses click dimensions. I would always 100% say Dynamics 365 marketing. So they've improved the product so much, and I think it's fantastic. But then what they did was they introduced real-time marketing. And now it's almost like you've got two products within one. And it's taken me a long time to wrap my head around it, and how to take a customer that is either currently using marketing, in which case they have all of their stuff in what is now termed as outbound marketing, which is essentially what Dynamics 365 marketing is or has been. And then to say, oh, but there's this real-time marketing, but all of your emails that you've sent are in this one section, what you used to know. And now anything you want to send for real-time marketing, all your emails are now in this other section. And your journeys that you did send are over here. And if you want to do a new journey for real-time marketing, guess what? It's over here. So they've created this amazing new functionality, but they've put it in the product. I'm guessing over time it'll essentially end up coming together. But now we've got what feels like a disjointed marketing app with two different sections. So for a long time, I was like, I don't know how I would implement this for somebody, but I know I will have to at some point, and I had to wrap my head around it. So I've started this A to Z of real-time marketing, because I did the A to Z of just regular marketing. And it's been a journey to teach myself all of the different areas of it, so that then I can actually implement it. And I do have a customer who will start using their first real-time journeys probably next week or the week after. But it's taken a long time to get to that point of being able to even say, how the heck would I explain this to a customer where there's aspects of it that I don't really, not that I don't understand. Obviously, I understand the concepts and understand what they're trying to do, but I couldn't picture how would I implement this. So therefore, I wouldn't touch it for a long time.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was watching one of your, was it G today? I can't remember if it was actually the most
Good question. Yes, it was G.
Was and like, it was really interesting to see how they do the journey thing. Like, I'm not a specialist on marketing, so a lot of what you say in those videos goes way above my head, but like, I get the basic concepts of it. And it seems like you say, it's so much more of a better product now. But like you said earlier, like the barrier is the pricing, I think, for a lot of people.
100%, I think, is the pricing. And who Tiago has said, oh no, somebody says too much. Chris saying it's too much for the average marketer. I have been astounded by the difference in the level of marketing experience that an organization will have, like in terms of like who they consider as their marketing department. You've got people that basically they write copy. That's it. You've got someone else that might do social media stuff.
Right.
Microsoft have introduced this thing, I can't remember, and if someone can remember what the term they've used, but where it's basically providing suggestions of what to use for your copy. I think it is an awful concept. I think if you're hiring somebody to write copy for your organization, they better bloody know your product, they better know the industry. That should be part of their job. So to have where you start creating an email and then it says, oh, I see you writing about fishing rods. Well, here's an excerpt about fishing rods that you might want to put into your email. So that sort of thing, no, you should hire the right people. So I kind of agree with what you're saying, Chris, but I also feel that an organization that can afford marketing better bloody have more than an average marketer. You know what I mean? Like you should be hiring the right people for that job. And they should want to use all of the different tools and all of the functionality rather than just having something suggest what copy to use. So
yeah, and the fundamental problem here is that people don't know what marketing is. I mean, when you break down the structures, there's MRM, there's all sorts of things that go into marketing, like resource management, content writing, planning, all that type of thing. I mean, my missus is a marketer, right? She works for an ISV, and I can tell you right now, like also with a marketing background, when I looked at tools like MDM, remember that good old little chestnut that we had, right? That was an MRM solution. It was marketing resource management. It was actually bloody good as well, other than the marketing automation piece, which was shite, right? But I think in this one, we're getting there. I think there's a lot more. I think like the actual solution itself, there's a lot more to it. But then you give it to the average marketer and they're like, how do I make an email?
Yeah, then it's like MailChimp should be what they're using. It's that level. My fear is that there's, sorry, I feel like I'm totally dominating. My fear is that we see so many different areas where Microsoft are trying to make it the best possible scenario or journey for the citizen developer, somebody that doesn't have any technical or knowledgeable experience whatsoever. And my fear is that if we start to make it like a MailChimp, then I don't see how. I don't know. I just feel like then you lose part of the newest functionality where you can have these things called event triggers that you create that says when something happens in the database, have that be the start of a journey. So you can build it and code it. So if you make it too simple, you remove the possibilities of this exciting functionality that you could use. So
yeah,
that's the end of my monologue.
No. I think it's entirely warranted. There's a couple of also relevant comments to Jukka, but AI for marketing copy is easy compared to the ultimate challenge for our big data overlords, AI for Microsoft licensing, which I, for one, would welcome our robot licensing overlords if they were to if they were to exist and take over. Francesco said there's the unfortunate case where marketers at the end customer have heard the organization is getting Dynamics and it's the magic bullet to fix all their IT and system woes, and that there's a marketing module, and then they mistakenly land on Dynamics marketing and believe they're getting all that rather than the dated campaigns, quick campaigns, etc. Yeah, which is a good point. And you're right in what you say, like, if people don't already have a proper marketing department, don't know what they're doing, they may as well be using MailChimp at a kind of base level. So yeah, I mean, it is geared towards professional marketing department. Right?
Absolutely. And it's weird because I've actually had 2 examples of organizations where the marketing people just provided the copy, and it was IT people that went off and did the queries and actually put it all together, because the system that they've been using was so complicated that nobody could figure it out. So now you've got not only marketing people that are now going to actually do that, they've never actually used a system before where they need to write a query, not write a query, but basically build out a segment by adding filters to it. So now it's not even just about like writing my copy. It's like, well, how do I even use any kind of system like to do something? So yeah, strange business.
Fair enough. What I'd like to also touch on some of the other stuff that came out of Ignite, other than Paygo and such. Some of the things that I thought were really interesting, and maybe you guys have got an opinion on, is Teams chat. And being able to embed Teams chat functionality within Power Apps, and having Teams connectivity within Dynamics 365. Like, I, for one, feel like a lot of almost everyone that we know in this sphere is using Teams. Like, is anybody using it to like its fullest capacity, do you think? Because I feel like we're all just, well, I know I'm just scraping the surface of what I could be doing, or what I could be doing, achieving with Teams. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation actually I had today with a partner of ours who focuses on Teams and not so much on the Power Platform, let alone Dynamics. And so they've been kind of building this kind of a training program for kind of Teams for account management, or kind of how should you be structuring your Teams information architecture based on your customers and projects and so on, because there's no obvious pattern that we could then use for kind of connecting the old CRM way of thinking into what the kind of team structures then should be like. I think there's also very little kind of guidance on that front from Microsoft or anyone publicly out there about how to map these things together. So yeah, I definitely see that there's, well, we now have these some touch points more there with the chat integration, so you can kind of track the chats for counter opportunities. So in Dynamics, you cannot still track the channel threads or anything like that. So it's kind of like covers maybe 20% of what we would need from a Teams and CRM integration. But then, yeah, looking at the big, getting back to the licensing topic, so the promise that they also made during the summer about the making Dynamics 365 data free for Teams users. So now we actually at Ignite, we saw the way that it's going to be implemented, and that was why the via the loop components and context IQ, so the hot new technology from the Microsoft 365 side, and it's, I think that story is very, very interesting if you look at it from a bit kind of a high perspective on if we're now going to have the ability to like embed basically any records in Dataverse in any environment, be it Power Apps, be it Dynamics, or whatever, and kind of reference that within @ symbol and then link it to a any chat on Teams or channel threads, or in the kind of loop canvases that are going to be coming out in a few months' time. So I think that really kind of it's the next level of Outlook tracking, but you're not just kind of feeding your personal data to the system like we would usually be asking the sales guys and CRM users to do back in the days, but rather we're not kind of making it as the kind of I'd say the system of context. So you can actually link it to anything you have a discussion around. You can link to the actual business object that you have there in some application, in some environment, but still on the same platform there. So I think that is that's a very unique story that we can now see from the combination of these two products. So I think that knowing that this is going to be kind of the long-term vision, then it's easier to kind of then ignore the maybe today's gaps in the story about how linking Teams and Dynamics is really that straightforward yet. Because okay, it's still marketing demos at Ignite, but I mean, it's obvious that they are building it. It's going to be also something that they're going to push for all the users of Teams. So it's not going to be hindered by licensing. So that is a huge potential market for for Power Platform and Dynamics use cases in the future.
I think one of the biggest challenges with anything to do with Teams is that there are so many organizations who basically fell into using Teams. Either if they weren't using it before COVID and before pandemics and people working from home, they were then forced into it. And it was like oh crap, we need to start doing something with Teams. So there wasn't ever really thought in terms of how is our organization going to use it? What are our best practices going to be? Anybody at an organization even potentially going in and starting to try and learn the settings, learn in the, in the admin area for Teams specifically, not even necessarily knowing what was there to be able to turn on or turn off or set up policies or anything like that. So I think that the biggest challenge is that someone might say, oh yeah, great, we can now use Teams in different ways. But again, it's just kind of then somebody being able to step back and say, well, this is how we are going to use Teams as an organization. Therefore, we need to apply those same rules, policies, best practices. If we're using it in conjunction with Dynamics, it still needs to follow some kind of, some kind of logic rather than a free-for-all, which I think is what has been the case for so many organizations, even larger enterprise organizations that just weren't really using it before and weren't using it in the best way.
Yeah, I would agree 100%, because like you say, most people fell into it, and then you've got people who are using Teams for instant messaging, but they're also messaging on other platforms, and they've got some files stored in Teams and some elsewhere in SharePoint, and it's like the Wild West at the moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And to pull it back more to the Power Platform side of things, I am not very au fait with Power Virtual Agents, but I know that there is also changes regarding Teams and Power Virtual Agents, and adding like a PVA bot into Teams. Thanks, Chris. No one is. Yeah, well, I'm glad it's not just me. Like, Jukka, is that something you have any knowledge, experience on, or not really your area?
I've done very little with PVA hands-on, and I'd say that currently it's a kind of selling that to the users who are struggling with how to structure the teams. What should we have as channels and what should we have as teams, and where to link our CRM records. Then I mean that's just another level. It's not maybe realistic for trying to include it into the existing use cases there. So I think that we'd rather see organizations adopt this kind of simple kind of replacing forms with dialogues that are built via PVA. So making the kind of data entry for something very specific more natural to be done by a mobile device, but still then they kind of discoverability. How will I instruct my users to start this chat with the bots when they need to do X? I have no clue. So there's lots of things to still kind of to be done there in kind of surfacing the right bots in the right context, because you can't really. Well, I'm not sure about the latest announcements from Ignite, but still, I don't think there's a way to really actively kind of use chatbots in the way that you use them on public websites, where they come and ask you if you need help with this kind of thing. Whereas with Power Platform and Teams, you still need to know who to talk to, which is not a good way to use a bot. So I think once that has been reversed a bit, so they can become more proactive, then why not? They could definitely replace some scenarios where it's equally difficult to find the right form to fill. So it's not necessarily something that's easy now, but for especially kind of younger generations who are living with the kind of mobile in their hand 24/7 rather than using keyboard, then I mean it's going to be more natural for them to maybe approach a bot rather than open up a waveform on the browser and start entering information there.
Yeah, fair enough. What also Power Automate and Teams, what do we think? Sorry, Chris, you had your hand up. Sorry.
No, I think just on what Jukka's saying, right? I think with PVA, I think PVA, it's a great tool. It's kind of useless without Flow, though. Just in my opinion. I mean, it's a cool tool, right? But other than having a thing that you can put an FAQ into and do some routing, without Flow and without the pool of data and the interaction of data, like, what does it actually do? And that, for me, I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm just more being like, you got to think about it, right? And so that's cool. I think it would be nice to see a little bit more around, people bringing up use cases where, they can show the stuff actually working properly in a live scenario. I've seen a couple, but I'd like to see more. And the other thing that I found is that with PVA, the thing that I talk about with PVA is that actually it's really good for those scenarios where you have a mismatched interaction with society. Okay, so you got somebody running around with a phone, and a kid in their hand and a cup of coffee, and they're not going to go into an app and be like, hey, blah blah blah. Like, it's a great way to interact with data, but I still think sometimes the mechanism to use Power Automate and Flow with it is a little bit clunky. I don't know what you guys think. Like, do you agree, Jukka, Megan?
I don't. I mean, I don't know what others do, but if I go to a website and it pops up and there's a chat, even if I couldn't before, now I definitely know it's a PVA. It's some kind of bot that I'm interacting with. I will then go and try and find. I'd rather go hunt through the website to try and find any kind of email address that I can extract from somewhere, or a contact form, and just go ahead and submit or send an email. I'd rather do that than interact with something that I know I'm going to have to carefully choose my words in a way that it will understand what I'm actually needing, rather than what it's been programmed to think that I'm needing. So I agree. I think I've done some stuff with PVA, but it's been my own playing around, fiddling about, putting it on my website as a bit of fun to test with. I mean, Franco in the comments said that he's got a project that's about to go live next week, where he's got it with, what did he say, with a portal plus iOS app and Android app via Power Automate, which sounds flippin' epic. And definitely, Franco, you need some more blog posts. So that's some great material. But yes, so I think, like you, Chris, I'd want to see it more. The power, no pun intended, the power of things like Power Apps and Power Automate is that you can see people creating these things where you're like, oh my God, that's so cool, that's awesome. I haven't seen anything with PVA where I felt that way, or been like, oh my God, I want to be able to build that. It's just been like, oh, okay, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
I guess
that's fair. Carlos?
No, I was just, I know we've talked about reactive to what happened at Ignite, but I think in the last 10 minutes be worth thinking about what's still missing. Where do you think the Power Platform dynamics, or whatever you want to call it, needs to spend some more money? Or what do you think is the killer part of other applications that's missing from our platform?
While you think about that, I have a small opinion on whether, like, does process mining actually work in Power Automate or not? Like, does it work the way in my mind I think it's supposed to work? Does it work like that?
Never used it.
Okay. Sorry, Jukka, you were about to say. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, I was kind of thinking what's missing. So if I look at the kind of progress that has been made on the kind of traditional Power App side, the Canvas side, where it's all about citizens, and now we have this kind of merging of the app types. So there's so much more things you can do now in combination with the Canvas apps and Dataverse, kind of the old external platform. But then at the same time, the complexity is increasing so much there with the toolkit. So like, it makes sense that Microsoft is now kind of changing the pro devs and filling the gaps there to try and make it a really competitive platform for the other kind of more developer focused low code toolkits like OutSystems and Mendix and those guys. But then at the same time, I kind of fear that there's so many features being now packed into a simple tool that used to be something that was great for the citizens, but now we have these kind of we started to have this kind of bit of cracks there because of the fact that we are now putting these two products together that weren't really born as twins. So there are now layers of kind of the old and the new, something we used to have in Dynamics for ages already, because there's always been new versions of layers, but we kind of have a bit of legacy already there in the kind of the citizen tools as well. So kind of how to manage the kind of balance between those two, because we need to go for the pro devs as well, convince them that this is something that they can use together with Azure. And at the same time, it's so much potential there with making it even more simple for the actual citizens to start adopting, without then kind of ending up in endless Googling for kind of tips to do something that used to work this way in 2019. Now it's completely different. It's been renamed, rebranded, and all of that. So that kind of a layers we already start to see in the product, I think, and that's something that's it's going to become it's not going to stop the progress, but it's going to slow it down and make it a bit kind of probably turn it again back towards the kind of the consultants who used to do the low code when it was still purely Dynamics, and making it so too powerful for the really simple scenarios. So I think that's one worry I see in the current kind of direction of the platform.
Cool. Megan?
So the honest truth is, when Carl asked the question, I was reading something and I have no clue what the question was.
Oh,
What do you think's missing? What would you like to see?
This is why we don't invite you, Megan.
I don't. I'll always stick up for you. I was listening for you.
So my dog's name is Oscar. Is that what you asked me? No, what do I think's missing in
what would you like in anything in the whole estate, or in your opinion, what would you like to see coming to maybe the areas that you work on?
I don't think for me, I don't think it's necessarily like specific functionality that's missing or a specific product or anything like that. Oh no, that's a lie. I'll come back to that. There is something that's missing. So I think what I would really like to see, and somebody said, basically like in the fullness of time, the parity, there's the things that I'd like them to focus off to finish off. So to get to the point where I can go into the Maker portal and I can just stay in the Maker portal, and I don't have to go off and do something in XRM Toolbox, because that's the much better, faster way to do a certain thing. So Iconator, for example, to add a new icon to a new entity, to a new table. So being able to just say, I'm going into one place to do my job, and I know I can stay in that place and not have to go back into Classic or, like I said, XRM Toolbox. So that's what I'd really like them to just stop and say, let's get it somewhat more, like, maybe not perfect, but let's get it to that point. The thing that I think is missing, and this goes back along the lines of marketing, is when they had what was it called? The social, what was the name of it? Somebody tell me.
Social engagement.
Yes. That I thought was fantastic. And then they got rid of it. And then they brought it back, disguised, renamed, whatever. Brought it back for like a millisecond blink if you miss it. And then they got rid of it again. And now we have this wonderful marketing app that I'm singing the praises of and saying how great it is. But that is the one thing that I feel is missing, is the social aspect of it is crap. It is really, really bad. It's basically, I can go ahead and I can create a social post that will go out to a Twitter, a LinkedIn, a Facebook, a Facebook page or LinkedIn page. The analytics, some of them, they're worse than the analytics you can get out of it. And even then, it's like only analytics on a tweet, no analytics on like a LinkedIn post. So there's certain things where you look at it and you're like, you cannot go and get everything about your social posts or your social profiles. So that, I feel, if other companies can do it and have an integration to Dynamics, why is that not part of a marketing suite, a marketing product that Microsoft have provided? They've done it before. Why not do it again? So that is what I think is missing 100%. Vivian, do you agree? Yes, Vivian agrees. Thank you. My fellow marketing girl. So yeah, that's missing 100%.
Yeah, like, I mean, it makes, as a lay person such as myself, it makes sense if you're going to post stuff out on socials, you want to see how it's performing, right? But you can't see that by the...
No, so I always say don't bother using the social posts within marketing. Go off and use your HubSpot or your Suite or whatever exists today just for doing that.
Chris is always having a go at me for being a fan of HubSpot. Like he literally, he nearly sacked me from the Power Platform happy hour because of mentioning HubSpot.
HubSpot's actually a pretty good tool.
It's great.
It is.
Yeah, if you hate your business.
No, it's a decent tool. I won't slag it off.
No, it's not too bad. It's Hootsuite's the one that I hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything. But yeah, and I agree with your comment, Chris, in terms of like the changes with the APIs. There's like, some of the social media sites will allow you to have it connected and authenticated for 30 days and then it drops and then you have to re-authenticate. So I get it, but it's just, you did it before, do it again. Please.
Yeah, it gets icky with legal. I know. I remember going.
But that's not my problem, though, Christopher. That's Microsoft.
Microsoft needs to learn to play nicely, and unfortunately, I just think there's too many ramifications around the data. I just think data privacy screwed it all. So,
like the whole problem, like, is it's not going to connect well. It's not going to play well with Meta. Is that what we're saying?
That's what exactly we're
saying. With Feta. So I think that probably brings us to the end of the session. I think there's probably a bit more we could have talked about, but yeah, we've only got like 2 minutes left. So all that remains is for me to say a massive thank you to our wonderful, wonderful guests, Jukka and Megan. Thank you for joining us. And I think Carlos has a slide with their details on, maybe. Do you? Should you wish to connect with these lovely people.
Oh, thanks, Carl.
Oh, there we go. Look at you with your lovely professional pictures there.
We both look so thoughtful. We're both like, what am I thinking about?
You both look very fresh-faced as well.
That was many moons ago.
You're still fresh-faced.
Yeah, thanks.
So do feel free to reach out to both of these guys if you wish to connect with them, or if they can help you with anything that you're working on at the moment. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining us. Unless anybody has anything else they would like to add, then I will bid you a wonderful Wednesday evening. I don't think we're doing this next month, are we, Carlos?
No, we're taking a break because it's Christmas and all that stuff. So, but we are back in the new year, so watch out for that.
Back in the new year in will it be January or
February?
Yeah. January. Yeah. Okay. Back in January with maybe more Between Two Ferns type content, or perhaps we'll switch it up again for the new year. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you after Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.